I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Culpy and Chip and whoop, Ghosty took a spill.
Ghosty took a spill. We are just coming back from 2-day music festival.
Impact.
The review of which will be up sooner rather than later. We're probably going to have this one up before Static X, and we did Static X like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
But one of the bands that we saw there was Killswitch Engage. Goodness gracious. They're very, very good live. There's a sneak.
Oh, yeah.
There's a sneak peek into your what do you call it? They're extremely good live. And they did this song, so we wanted to review this song from Killswitch Engage. For time and topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. We've been posting pretty consistently last couple of days, so you should have new material there. And, you know, if it's one of those days where things are going well for you and you're happy and you're like, I want to be pissed off and angry at somebody, then go there, because Middle America's goal is to piss everybody off and make everybody angry at Vincent, and I think we'll accomplish that. So, Unleashed, Killswitch Engage, let's go.
And go.
It's the part of me you
Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, you got the lyrics up there too.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that is really good.
That's like that's standard Killswitch Engage. So I was telling Sori, I was like, Killswitch, they've got all these records. They went through a phase where they had like 3 or 4 records released and every song was crazy. And they, like, this is their template. Like, they got, they're really, really good. Good Lord. And the lyrics are always pretty deep. So that's no different on this song. What were your thoughts on it?
Oh, I love that how heavy it was. And the voice, vocally he's very good.
Yeah, he's got a very unique voice. Jesse Leach, that guy, the lead singer.
Yeah. When you're at like the concert, I mean, because I've never heard any of these songs, so when you only hear it at the concert for the first time, you can't really hear like the breakdown because there's so much. But I am not clear on what he's talking about. Sometimes it almost sounded like, I don't know, something about like when Jesus was being killed.
Well, yeah, it's the name of the record is called Atonement. So Jesse Leach, pretty sure he's a Catholic, and I think there's one other guy who's explicitly on the band like a Christian, but they've always had like Christian themes like in all their music. They're not a Christian band per se, but they've always written, there's always been religious undertones. I'm not particularly sure it's specifically about he's speaking to somebody who's a traitor, obviously. It says right there. Can you feel the pain of those you betrayed, promises unmade, yada yada yada. So, but yeah, the
kind of seemed like
what?
Judas. Like I got a blank there. Yeah, Judas.
Yeah, but it's can you feel the pain of those you've betrayed?
Well, by betraying Jesus, he betrayed all the rest of them too.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's what the song's about though.
What do you think that it is?
I just think it's about somebody who's betrayed somebody, and he's talking about dealing with the fallout, and you've unleashed the wild within, which is a control. And the reason I'm saying that line is a control is because the name of the song is Unleashed. So that's the emphasis of the song, is because you've done this, you've unleashed the wild within.
The wild within himself or them, because they were going to respond to his deceptive betrayal.
Well, he's always talking to the person. He's never owning the betrayal of himself. It's the other person who's a traitor. So I'm looking at it as, there it is right there. You've unleashed the wild within because you deceived me. So the progression is deceive me, and then it's okay, then release me in the sense of, okay, like you and I are no longer whatever it was, and then unleash me is the temptation to lash out at the person, not just leave them alone in the release me line, but also the unleash me line, which is, to go after them. And then the next line is, you've unleashed the wild within. Like, how else could it be? The person did all that stuff to them and they want to do something to them.
Yeah.
Hence, you've unleashed the wild within.
Yeah, it's the person's reaction to their deception and betrayal.
To the person's betrayal, yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I just see the progression as the person deceives you, then you want to release yourself or be released from the relationship, but then you dwell on it and then you get mad and then you want to go off and do something crazy.
Yeah.
I always stop on the release me part.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I understand I have a propensity towards certain things, so I'm just going to stop at release me, and that's usually good enough for me. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. I mean, I don't like I try like mad to stay away from the unleash me part, although a couple days ago.
Right. I was thinking that.
Don't mess with my daughter. Okay.
Or anybody's daughter that's underage when you're...
Or anybody's daughter, yeah. Because it
30 something.
really wouldn't have been much different.
No.
So, there's that. Welcome to the madness that dwells inside these eyes. Yeah, again, like he's angry.
Oh,
Pushed
yeah.
to the breaking point, you're running out of time. Yeah. I just think it's just healthy. See, this is the other side of it. People are like, oh, Vin, you just cut people off and you stop talking to them. It's unhealthy. Yeah? Is it healthier than this? You sit there and you go, look, it's like you're running out of time. You're running out of time. Most people, like, you can't really be betrayed by a stranger.
Right.
It
has to be somebody that's close to you.
It's got to be somebody that you're friends with. So when he says you're running out of time, most victims are people. Very rarely is crime just a random act of violence. There's usually some sort of relationship that happens. So to me, my method of handling that stuff to me is a lot more healthy. I can happily say I don't really have friendships or former relationships where I've ever been like pushed to the point where I wanted to do some physical harm to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's because like once they're done, they're done.
Yeah, no, I mean I can see how that's healthier. It's just I just think like lots of us, it's hard for us to do that, especially because I think, like you said, we dwell on the betrayal, we dwell on the deceit, and then you keep rethinking about it, and the more you think about it, the more you're like, oh yeah, and then there was this, oh, and there was that, and then like it just starts getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
When he says, release me, it's the part of me you can't comprehend.
Yeah.
Do you think he's like, you didn't understand this side of me that I could be like this?
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's what happens in relationships sometimes, is that people take other people for granted. And they think, oh, this person's always put up with it, so we'll keep doing it again.
Yeah.
And no. No. That's not true. It also seems to be like in relationships, like maybe he didn't communicate openly enough about where he was at, so the other person really couldn't comprehend just how far gone they were.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's an interesting line. Well, the first line though, this innocent blood is on your hands, is just kind of a dramatic way to put it. If it's just an interpersonal beef, if it's just an interpersonal issue, then I'm not particularly sure that fits, unless it depends on the basis of the betrayal.
Yeah.
And what actually happened as a result of said betrayal. But I think this is for all you Vingo players. I think if you take the knowledge of original sin into your friendship or any relationship, then you're much more equipped, I think, to deal with betrayal. And I have in my mind, I have an assumption that everybody that you know and loves you is going to betray you just because of the nature of the sinful nature and the weakness that people have. Jesus said the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. So from that perspective, if betrayal is a violation of trust or a lack of meeting a certain expectation of loyalty, then everybody you know is going to betray you, and you're going to betray everybody that you know, depending on how high the standard is. And so then you have to figure out, okay,
just a matter of degrees.
Yeah, then you have to figure out, okay, to what degree of betrayal and to what time of consistency am I comfortable with? And that's when you start functioning like a healthy person, is that when you're able to understand that. Because then you can overlook a whole bunch of other stuff. You can say, yeah, I mean, I guess, but hey. But if you don't have those lines and you don't communicate those lines, then everything starts stacking up to the point where, there's a final straw, and then somebody does get unleashed and go crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that and obviously this whole concept I got from Jesus, where, the night, and it's interesting because Paul talks about it. Was it 1 Corinthians? Pretty sure it was 15 or 16 when he's talking about communion, and he talks about the night that Jesus, initiated communion for all of us. Paul characterizes it as the night that he was betrayed. That's how Paul characterized it. He didn't say the night before he was crucified. He says the night that he was betrayed. And so that's very, very interesting, especially if you think about that in the context of communion. Because betrayed by who? I think everybody and their mother can say, well, Judas, obviously. But Peter also betrayed him, right? Because Peter denied that he knew Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's a betrayal. And then all the disciples ran when there was danger. That's a betrayal. And then the Jewish court was unjust. That was betrayal. And then Pilate, even according to Roman law, had no basis to crucify Jesus. That was betrayal. And then the crowd was shouting, crucify him. That was betrayal because he had healed a whole bunch of those people. And some of those people still had the bread that Jesus multiplied in their bellies as they're yelling for his crucifixion. So Jesus, if I wanted to get really provocative, the same word that was applied to Judas, the same Greek word that was applied to Judas's betrayal of Christ, it says Judas gave him up, is literally the same word that Paul applies to God the Father in Romans 8 about Jesus, where it says,
I was wondering if that was...
It's the same word. So the word that is used for Judas's betrayal of Jesus, when Paul in Romans 8 says, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, that term gave him up is the exact same word as betray.
I was wondering that, but I was like, is that even so horrific to say? So there's a sense in which God the Father betrayed the Son on the cross.
Yeah, he gave him up. Now, obviously, everything God does is good, so he betrayed him in a holy and righteous sense. And most Christians are going to cringe at that, but test me. Go see. The same word that's applied to, the same Greek word that's applied to Judas the traitor is the same word that's applied to God the Father.
Jeez.
So, Jesus was given up by everybody.
Yeah.
So that's why Paul characterizes it as this is the night that he was betrayed, and that's in the context of communion. And I think that the strategy around that is when you take communion, the body and blood, is that you are recognizing that you're one of those traitors that necessitate. The very reason that we need to take the body and the blood is the very reason that the body and blood was shed in the first place, namely that we're all traitors to God.
Right.
And so anyway, when I saw the innocent blood is on your hands, I was like, whoa, because communion, every time you take it, is a reminder that the blood of Christ is on your hand, that you're a traitor who's shed innocent blood. And if that is the case, then you have to just decide whether or not, and it is really interesting with Jesus, because Jesus looks at Peter and says, hey, you're going to betray me. Satan's asked to sift you like wheat, but I pray for you, Simon, that your faith not fail, and when you have returned, strengthen your brothers. So Jesus looks at Peter and goes, I know you're going to betray me, but I already covered you. You're good. Like, we're okay. And then he looks at Judas and he says, the Son of Man goes about as is written of him, but woe to him who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better if that man was never born. And that's like one of the last things Jesus says to Judas. But yet, Jesus ate with Judas. He washed Judas's feet. He treated him just like everybody else. And one of the last things Jesus said to Judas in the garden was, hey, friend. So that really, shapes how I deal with stuff. If the person betrays you, are they a Peter traitor or are they a Judas traitor? If they're a Peter traitor, they didn't have that in their heart. It's just human weakness in a moment of pressure. Most people are going to fold like under real significant pressure. Most people are going to fold. They're not going to be able to stick with you. And I just think that, a mature person's going to say, well, if you've known your friend long enough or your partner or whatever long enough, you can overlook a lot of it. You just say, his spirit's willing, the flesh is weak. If you had the strength, you wouldn't have done it. But because of your weakness, I get it. Then there's other people that are like malicious, like Judas, right? And those people are toxic and need to be avoided. And so, but you don't have to go out and yell and scream and, unleash yourself at them. Jesus said, all right, Judas, go do what you got to do, bruh. And then we saw him, he was very polite to him. I was talking to somebody yesterday. And somebody yesterday is all this, all this fluff and, people we had beef with or whatever. And I didn't feel the need to, I wasn't going to go after him and say, I was very cordial with him. I told him, I said, if I saw you, I wouldn't say a word to you, but yeah, I was very cordial with him. I was not going to insult him and do all this, crazy things. Like, the person's out of your life, they're out of your life, like, period.
Well, I mean, as you were saying that, you were messaging the person. So,
well, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, because we were talking about an actual important issue, there's a, everybody knows my policy on the border, but so that was important to me, and that was a conversation we're having in a public forum. But then he wanted to have a sidebar conversation about like personal stuff, and I was like, well, no, I have no interest in personally being anything to, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
And anytime that happens, it's always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. It's like, you want me to? People just like are so used to pretending and BSing their way through life that when somebody says something like that, the relationship is over. Like, it's done. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like we're gonna, whatever. Like, no, like, it's over. We're done. I wouldn't speak to you if I saw you. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean that I hate you or anything like that. It just means I'm not gonna get myself to the point where, the last of all my tolerance has left this broken man.
Yeah. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah, like, it's not, you gotta practice some self-awareness, like, everybody has limitations on tolerance, and so, like, I've never really understood this idea, and maybe it's because I moved around so much, so, like, you get friends and then you lose friends, you get friends and you lose friends, so it's, it's one of those things where it's like, it happens all the time. It happened all the time for me growing up, so.
It kind of reminds me of, how it says, like, basically, like, that the kindness of God is meant to lead us to repentance.
Yeah.
So, like, because you like do all these things that are wrong, and then nothing happens to you, people be like, oh, well, God doesn't care, it's no big deal or whatever. But he does. It's just that he holds off to give you time to say, all right, you know what, this is wrong.
Right.
And so the same thing happens in a relationship. Like, just because somebody doesn't fly off the handle with you the first, 50, 10, however many times, doesn't mean that they're not coming to a breaking point. They're just giving you time to kind of come around and not keep repeating that offense.
Yeah, I think Jesse said, we all have that wild within that often stays dormant until a tragic event triggers and awakens it. This song is about awakening within. See, well, it's actually pretty sad. On I think Albany posted it. On Father's Day, there's this guy standing outside an abortion clinic,
Oh gosh.
yelling and screaming and crying for his girlfriend to not do it.
Oh.
And that was pretty brutal. Because obviously I'm looking at that happen while I have my son. You know what I mean? And he was just born. So I could see a person hearing that song, especially the innocent blood's on your hands, yada yada yada, where you have a specific tragic event that happened that makes it so that it's impossible to continue with that person.
Oh yeah, I don't.
And I think again, it's one of those things is you have to know your limits and you have to understand what your limits are and how much you can tolerate. But yeah, that's brutal. That's a brutal thing for that guy to have to go through. And aside from the arguments and the debate and all that, this is not the forum to have the debate. I mean, you want to have the debate, call me up on the fireside. But aside from whatever you think about abortion, I mean, you got to admit it's a pretty heartbreaking thing to see a man who has his child and has named a child and is looking forward to playing catch with his child and showing him the ropes of life, and to have to watch as his child is killed is a tragedy in its own right. I mean, it doesn't matter what you believe about the topic.
Yeah.
That's a pretty terrible, painful thing to have to go through and to have to witness.
Yeah.
So, but I that's one of the things that I kind of think about a lot, is trying to find ways to. That's one of the reasons why I'm very, very quick to eliminate people from my life, is because I want to have emotional capital to deal with the people, like to deal with a couple major betrayals from people that are very, very close to me. So like, if you keep spreading yourself thin, when it happens with somebody close to you, you're not going to have any resources in order to be able to overcome that, because it's happening all the time. Whereas, again, and that's just how I order my life. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I mean, I won't know probably till the next 10 to 15 years if it's right or wrong, but that really goes into it, and obviously it kind of had to create those type of mindsets based on the first relationship that I was in, but it's still applicable. It's like you gotta really have a really good knowledge of self in order to maintain relationships. Good Lord, that's a tough song. It's a tough song. It's the first song on the track, so I'm pretty excited for this record. Oh well, actually it's not. I think I Am Broken 2 is probably the next one, but I don't think they released it yet. All right, what do you give the song?
Oh. 9.8.
It's a 10 for me. I really liked it. I'll be running to this one tonight for sure. For sure. Okay, y'all. What did you say?
9.8.
All right. 10 for me. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.